we're here with one of my really good friends I grew up with from Texas, Miguel Serrano. It's funny because I tell stories all the time when I do seminars and my books, and I think a lot of people might think that some of the shit I make it up, and it's not. So if you've ever heard me say, and if you haven't heard me say, when I was 17, my parents kicked me out of my house. My parents say that I moved out. I say, well, I didn't have a place to live, so you can call whatever you want, lady. But so my parents were really very Southern Baptist missionaries. And I was like this little goody two-shoes kid until I met this one. Just kidding. Wasn't his fault. When I turned...
I was about to say, hold up a second.
No, it wasn't him. It was one of our other friends. So it did happen at your kitchen table, though. So when I was like 17, 18 years old, I got out of my parents' house. I was very sheltered. I used to tell people I used to have to sneak out to actually hang out with church kids, to go watch movies and stuff like that. And so when I got to be 17 and I moved out of my parents' house, I kind of went as crazy as I could. But in Texas, like, it's not crazy like now. No. Now you go crazy, you're doing meth, heroin, all this other stuff. When we went crazy, it's like, we didn't even smoke weed back then.
Sneak out of the house.
We would sneak out of the house and we would drink.
And stay out all night.
And stay out
That's
all
crazy.
night. And so, but when I first started hanging out with Miguel and these guys, it was like my senior year. I'd never had a drink of alcohol in my whole life. I went over to his house. Now we have a drink every now and then. But so I went to his house, round his kitchen table, and there was a gentleman that I'm not going to say his name, but anyone else will know who it is. I was sitting at the table, and all of a sudden I feel this hand on my shoulder. And he goes, and then I see a shot of tequila go in front of me.
You know, Jose Cuervo.
And he goes, and when we drink tequila, it's not like this little uppity shit that people drink now.
Ain't no salt and lime.
Yeah, there's no salt. It's not, we didn't have, what are the kind of tequilas they have now? Like
Casamigos.
But there's also like,
El Patron.
but there's like different kinds.
Oh, it was
Reposado.
It was gold.
It was yellow.
Jose Cuervo gold.
So I see the shot go in front of me and I go, no, that's okay. I'm okay. And if you know who our friend was, there was no saying no to him. And he put his hand on my shoulder, blah, blah, blah. So the next thing you know, I'm drinking tequila. But growing up in Texas was a whole different lifestyle. And so I try to tell people, like, if you ever, like, I was telling my son the other day, and my son was down on himself a little bit, and I said, Hunter, you don't even understand. If I came from where I was to where I am now, you wouldn't even understand. So I met Miguel, we started hanging out, we became really good friends, and I tell people all the time, I failed Algebra 1 as a freshman, and I loved it so much, I failed it again as a senior. And Miguel and I were gonna go into the Marines together. And Miguel was ready to go. We were gung-ho. Like, we were gonna go to these, you know. And it's funny because I used to tell the stories after, when I started doing seminars when I was younger, and I would lie. I'd be like, oh, I went through all the mini boot camps, and I didn't go to this shit. And he knows this. But I always wanted to look better than I was. Now, I look back and all the stuff I went through, people use that as motivation. You know, it's like when you're younger, it's like you want to be more than you are. Now, when you look back, all those lessons you learned are different. So it was funny because Miguel and I, you know, I got to a point where I didn't even have a house to live in. I didn't have a place to live in. And Miguel's dad owned bars, but he also didn't he do carpet?
No.
Or he had carpet?
No, we had a
van.
We sold cassette tapes at the flea market.
But for some reason, in the back of your dad's white van that he used for the flea market, there was a huge roll of carpet, I remember. And I didn't have a place to live.
That was the carpet that came out of one of his bars.
Great, I'm so glad I slept on that. Who knows what I got from that? So,
yeah, so have yourself tested.
Yeah, I should. I should have the carpet tested. But so I would Miguel and I would hang out, and then his dad would have a van, and I would go sleep in that van until 5 o'clock in the morning, because your dad would get up early and leave to go to the flea market or whatever he was working in. And it was funny because sometimes Miguel would come out. He'd set an alarm or something and come out and wake me up. Go get out. My dad's gonna be awake in the morning. One morning, I remember your dad, I heard the car open, and I'm like, oh shit. I don't know. And for some reason, your dad went back inside. I'm like, thank God I can get out of there. Because your dad didn't want people staying at your house, because that's your house was where everyone congregated. Like, we would go to these bars down in Northside. So when I say that I wasn't a great person, I tell people, like, I was not the one you would think would be successful, was I?
You weren't. It's not that you weren't a bad person.
No, but I had no direction.
Yes, you were lost. Definitely say he was lost. And I mean, back in 18, 19, 20 years old, you don't think much about your future other than have your next tequila shot
or
what
going to
you're
the
gonna
bar
do,
down in Northside.
Yeah, you know, and so
But I would not be the one that most people would have expected to be successful
back
later
then,
on.
if they did a spin wheel, you may not be on that wheel.
I tell people, so one of our friends, a guy named, remember Clint Robertson?
Mm-hmm.
So Clint Robertson, he graduated valedictorian, and I used to tell people in seminars, I go, listen, and because I've done stuff with Clint, I said, Clint graduated magna cum laude. I didn't graduate, but if I did, it would have been Lordy, how come? And so the great thing about it, and it's like, I tell people all the time, it doesn't matter where you came from, it matters where you want to go. And so when I hit 24 years old and I met a guy that was worth about $200 million, at that point, I ended up reinventing myself. You know, I moved away. I didn't talk to people for a long time because Miguel went into the Marines, was very successful in the Corps. And that's the one thing that I honestly kind of regret. I don't have many regrets, but that's the one thing I wish I would have gone into. But I also realized that God has a plan for us. And if we
Amen.
fight it, you know, it's like, at 55, I turned 55 in a couple weeks. I couldn't be more happy with where my life's been. Now, I've made mistakes.
You're that old?
Shut up. You're older than me, aren't you? So the thing about it is, you know, it's like, I mean, I had to raise my son by myself for 10 years, and I made a lot of mistakes and I still make mistakes on a daily basis. But the good thing about it now is I don't let those mistakes affect me as much, you know? So with you, I mean, you and I have come a long way in our lives. We've reconnected. You know, I asked Miguel to fly out and just hang out with us and spend time. But it's like, I also believe you always go back to your roots. You know, it's like being born and raised,
You should at least go back to your roots.
unless your roots suck. I mean, you
Well,
know,
man, that's a good learning experience, though.
right.
So you have to be more grateful and appreciative of where you came from.
And that's the one thing I love about you. Like every time I see you post anything, it's always positive. You know, it's never, we post funny things, stupid things. And I see so many people that'll post, like we were talking about it earlier. We have friends and we have people in the world you can tell when they break up because they start I have a friend of mine here in Florida that I can tell when he breaks up in a relationship because he starts posting about fishing at night. Night fishing's the best thing I've ever done. No, it isn't. You just broke up with a girl. So now you know, and it's, I look back on my life and I look at the things that have gone bad and I laugh about most of them. You know, because whatever's the biggest deal right now in our lives, 5 years from now won't matter. And whatever was the big thing 5 years ago, I guarantee you and I could both look back 5 years ago. If you look back 5 years from now, something that was so huge 5 years ago, now I look at it and go, no big deal.
And it's so sad. A lot of people stress about that. They stress about the moment. And I always say, what's the worst thing that could happen to you?
Right.
You lose your breath. But if you believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, guess what?
Right.
You're going to get a better place anyways.
And if you live through it, you get the stories.
It is.
I think like you and I were just downstairs eating dinner or whatever, hanging out, and I was asking you about like this sales thing and what you did here. And the stories are what the best thing is.
Yep.
And it's like, I mean, a lot of reasons why I do videos and I want stuff on film is because I want later on my kid to be able to watch this shit. You know, because like he's 23, he's just now starting to get to an age where he starts realizing. But like even 10 years from now, I mean, I'm 55 in 2 weeks. 10 years ago, I've learned an enormous amount in the last 10 years. So I can't imagine 30 years ago, you and I have been friends that long.
Yeah.
And to all the things that we've been through, it's like if younger generations would just go, hey, I'm gonna go talk to someone older. You know, when I was younger, I started hanging out with people that were older than me. Because when you're hanging out with people your age, it's like, what can I learn from somebody?
Lost.
Yeah, and what can I learn from somebody that hasn't been through shit yet? You know, it's funny, I tell people all the time, it's like, you know, there's a lot of 23-year-old life coaches. How much fucking life have you been through that you're a life coach now? But, like, Ty and I have a friend of ours, Paul Cafaro. He's 24. This kid's been through a lot of life. You know, it's like things are accelerated nowadays. What do you think some of the biggest lessons you've learned over the last 30 years are for yourself?
I learned this a long time ago is don't sweat the small stuff. Everything is small stuff. I lived by that motto for a long, long time.
Right.
And I remember I used to have a bumper sticker on my Jeep. It didn't say stuff. It said shit. Don't sweat the small shit. Everything is small shit.
Well, that's even better than small stuff.
And so I remember I had that bumper sticker on my Jeep. And a friend of ours came up to me and was like, why do you have that on your Jeep? I'm like, why? Because it's curse words. I said, okay. Don't read the curse word.
Yeah.
But it's
Make it for
still
stuff.
It's the philosophy still the same.
Right.
No matter what it is, don't sweat it. Because believe it or not, you're gonna make it through. We
Right.
all do.
Right. As what is that thing they say? If it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. I know that's just cliche. I tell people all the time. I started believing all those cliche things, all the little sayings that people have. I started buying into it. And I'm not perfect. There's days I'm like, I want to just snap and kill people. I mean, I spend about $40,000 a month on some of my businesses that don't even make money. I was telling Kelsey the other day, I'm like, I could shut everything down and give myself a $60,000 a month raise. But I look at the bigger ramifications of things. I got 5 or 6 people that are on salary that if I shut it down, those people can't feed themselves. And guess what? Sooner or later, things either get better or they don't. And if something fails, like I've learned more from my failures than I've ever learned from my successes. And it's also like, I also believe that even you and I at the age we're at, we still have life. We still have energy. You can start over. I mean, Colonel Sanders from Kentucky Fried Chicken didn't start, I think it was until his late 40s or early 50s and became successful. So, I mean, what are some of the other things like, do you think being from a certain state is a benefit? Like the way we grew up, do you think it's a benefit or like, one thing I've realized when I went to other states and moved, I started realizing that a lot of times where you are, sometimes your geography holds you back. I think. I mean, maybe it's just me, but I know maybe it's not even the geography. Maybe it's just you being in that, because I had this reputation of being a piece of shit. I, wasn't doing well. But when I moved away, I could reinvent who I was. You probably got that in the military. Like when you went to the military and went overseas and you got to be whoever you wanted to create.
No, that was Miguel Serrano.
But you got to create that person. Nobody knew.
No,
But nobody knew your past.
No, you're right. Nobody did.
So
it's like turning the page.
Right.
The page in the chapter.
You got to be. I know you're who you are, but I'm just saying you got to decide your future, and I think people can do that every day. Like I live on the beach here in Florida. Every morning I watch that sun come up, and I'm like, you know what? I get to decide who the F I am today.
Yep.
Nobody gets to decide it for me, and if yesterday was shitty, today could be better.
But you can do that every day, no matter where you are.
Right. But most people don't feel like that.
Nope,
they get bogged down by their circumstance. They start holding things in.
It's just a mindset.
The one thing I love is that I can laugh about my past. Like the shitty things I've done, the fucked up things I've done, the marriages I've been through. I mean, I woke up one morning with 7 cents in a bank account, and that day I went out and started a company called 7 Cent Seminars because I was like, I can either use this.
Motivation.
Yeah, I can use this for bad or I can use it for good. And usually, if you look at it, I always try to find the funny in stuff. Like we laugh about the things. Like just even now, you telling me that carpet came out of your dad's bar, it makes a lot of things go sense. Like I think there was asbestos in that I probably ate, but now I'm laughing. That's even a better story now that I know that came out of a bar, and it's the funny part of shit that works.
And the irony behind that is that all the footsteps that have been on that carpet,
somebody's life.
It's all rolled up in a band and you slept on it.
Yeah, thanks.
Maybe all that wisdom from all those footsteps just...
Or maybe that was from a bar. I don't know there's much wisdom that came out of that shit.